similar question that was submitted to the platform. The question is, and we'll start with Keith and then Bonn and Bill. There are times when some Republicans have views contrary to the party platform. As chairman, how do you foster unity with the principles in the platform?
I've been asked this question quite a few times, and every single legislative session, and there are continually instances where individual candidates, either by virtue of voting their conscience or their districts or for a variety of reasons, vote on something outside the platform. I think the challenge is to what extent, when, and where, and how you quote-unquote try to enforce that. And again, my own opinion as a state chair who does not want to be an emperor is that that is better left to the normal processes and the re-endorsements and all of the election activities at the local level. Having said that, I do think as the chair and being a steward of the platform, that an intentional but intelligent working behind the scenes can be far more effective than any kind of after-the-fact reprisals. Those kinds of actions where you come out with a big stick in public, that's a sign of weakness, not a sign of strength. And so I would work behind the scenes with the caucus leadership, with the individuals themselves, and try to affect a positive outcome before it happens as compared to being very loud and noisy and frankly probably unproductive afterwards.
So I assume you're talking about legislators, but it could be other office holders too. And this has been a conundrum for a long time. I mean, there are always some people like Brandon Peterson who are off the reservation. And what do we do? I mean, those of us who spend a lot of time on the platform want to see that the platform is enforced. Many people, even aside from the platform, have strong views. How can the consensus of the Republican Party not be followed by the legislature? Well, it has to be done privately, whatever is done. The state party chair should talk to the legislator. The caucus, really, in some long talks I've had with Marty Secker, I really think the caucus needs to do most of the heavy lifting. But frankly, as we've done with the Judicial District Republican Chairs Committee, we need to send out polite emails saying, John Jones is voting for the Queen Amendment. Please talk to him. Sit down with him. We can say a lot of polite things that aren't going to hurt anybody, and they won't get any major publicity. I do think this is something. Another thing we need to have along the same line is the party website, or a website, which shows every stand that every legislator has taken in real time during that session, so that their constituents and others know whether they're following the platform or not. That way they will have some important.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a key issue going forward. I mean, one thing we do have to recognize is the chairman of the party is elected to represent the grassroots. He does not directly represent the legislators. Obviously, we have to work together as a party, to defeat Mark-Dayton's tax proposals, to ensure that we're advancing the principles of our platform and getting them enacted into legislation. But the party chairman does represent the grassroots. So if there is an issue like the judicial elections bill, the chairman, where they're trying to take away a right to vote, the chairman does have a role to say that, our grassroots party has taken this stance. However, and that the party is in favor of contested judicial elections. However, if there is debate inside the party, the party should respect the endorsement process. So it's not the chairman's job to try to kick Senator Peterson out of office because he's reflecting where he stands in good conscience on that issue, and we're a substantial number of delegates, so the party aren't with them. The chairman should be trying to balance those two roles, letting local delegates endorse their candidates, but also being a voice to protect the brand of the party long term and protect the platform established by the delegates.
Well, there, that's for any of you that care to answer it. In talking about the platform, some activists argue that the platform is too long and detailed, and that is causing problems because there are so many issues in there that you're going to find a lot of legislators and others who aren't going to agree with everything. Do any of you believe that the platform should be considerably shorter? There are some who say it should just be those 7 principles and we don't get into issues at all. I'm curious if anyone has an opinion on that.
I'm glad to. So my perspective is we have spent way too much time and energy inwardly focused. And you know, the platform is important. I read the platform start to finish before I decided to run for office to make sure I could actually, in good conscience, run as a Republican. And it is long and hard fought. As Bonn mentioned, it's 50,000 people over the long haul. And I'll tell you what, if we spend the next 2 years or 4 years or 6 years trying to figure out how to whittle that thing down or edit it or take things out or change it, you know, we are focused on the wrong thing. That thing is what it is. We have, I think, appropriately lifted a handful of key principles out. I like that a lot. It's on a card you can actually read. And if we found this idea of perhaps listing out, you know, election platform planks, I think we can respect the integrity of that document and the process that got it to where it is now, have it be a little more effective, and we can communicate it more effectively in the elections. But people, let's remember, our biggest problem right now as Republicans is that we are totally focused in. We have got to focus back out on the people in Minnesota if we're going to win.
I guess fundamentally, I think we have to respect the process by which we arrived at the platform. You know, 50,000, 65,000 people in 1 year gather together. A lot of them come to the caucuses, you know, with their list of resolutions that they want to pass forward. And very often, particularly it's on issues like pro-life issues, it's a way to bring people into the grassroots and strengthen the party and have people have their voice heard, you know, in the party. And it's also a way for people who, you know, we as a party, if we're going to go out and talk to Minnesotans, and I agree with you, we've got to go out and bring our message to the voters of Minnesota. But we've also had to have, you know, part of the process of growing and getting more voters is having these internal discussions about the issues, having issues about how can we change monetary policy, how are we going to be the party that stands for constitutional rights and constitutional liberties. And we've had, in the last cycle, several waves of people coming in through the caucus system who have brought those issues forward. And that is a good thing that helps us, you know, adapt to changing political circumstances and have more people working with us so that we can go out and win elections. And I think it's key, it's a key process that we need to keep to help strengthen our grassroots and grow our party.
I agree that there cannot be simplification. I mean, we've talked about this for years, at least for 15 years. I was on the platform committee in 2000. And the attempts always fail. I mean, they're well-meaning people, many of them, who want to do this. But the attempts fail because if you simplify anything, it's taking away from the process from the grassroots up, from the precinct office. You can't do that. Politically, you can't do that. And it loses its whole nature if you try to oversimplify it. One way to make it more practical and to get more legislators involved in it is to get more legislators input. They very often don't speak on these things. They don't come up with resolutions. They could do that. And I do agree with Keith that the summary we've got makes it easier to sell. This is the branding part of it. If we can make it fairly simple, as we have with the summary, then we can sell it better.